Welcome back. My name is Cynics, and this is Chapter 4 of House of Glass. I haven't been posting as much as I was before, and I apologize for that. I've just, been doing personal stuff, taking trips, and having fun with my friends. So, I'm back, and let's get right into it. Naruto rubbed his eyes as he waited at the entrance of the Hokage building. He was early, earlier than even Hinata. This was an entirely intentional aberration from his usual tendency of showing up on or before a deadline. It was a subtle form of payback. Go ahead, invade on my terrible personal life anytime you want, Hinata. I'll find ways to piss you off for it, he thought to himself. He yawned and took a sip of water from a bottle he had bought on his way to the building. It had been vastly overpriced, as was the norm for Naruto when dealing with businesses of all shapes and sizes. After several more minutes of monotonous silence, Hinata arrived, as polished and groomed as she always was. Morning, Hinata. Have a nice night? The blonde asked politely. The Hyuga girl stopped several feet from him, her eyes narrowed and her posture stagnant. She was clearly not a fan of having been beaten to the Hokage building, especially by Naruto. After a moment of silence, she nodded and walked to the bench, sitting down once she reached it. Yes, I did. My father was quite understanding of my predicament, so I received no punishment for my tardiness, she replied. The excitable Genin raised an eyebrow and glanced at his teammate skeptically. What do you mean, predicament? You followed me home and refused to leave until I told you all about my shitty living situation. That sounds more like a predicament for me than you, he said. Hinata scowled at his words. Refrain from using such profanity when speaking to me, Uzumaki-san. It makes you even more or less desirable to talk to than you already are. As for what my predicament was, it was that I knew virtually nothing about who you were. I already knew what I needed to know about Nara-san, but your situation was a mystery to me. I like to be well studied when conversing with people, she explained. Naruto snorted. You still don't know a thing about me, Hinata. Just because you piece together that I'm an orphan who lives alone does not mean you know how I think or how I function. All you really did, was piss me off, he retorted. The pair lapsed into silence after his words. After several minutes of silence, Hinata spoke. Did you ever have parents? A family? She asked. The blonde sighed and ran his hands through his hair. No, I've been alone since from day one. I haven't seen any pictures, read any family scripts, or found any history on them. I wonder sometimes if I even had parents. Who knows? Maybe I'm the world's first artificially created human, he joked. Despite the jovial nature of his words, his voice held an easily detectable undertone of pain. The Hyuga girl felt her stomach wrench at his words. She studied him as he stared off into the early morning sun. I thought that you're artificial, Uzumaki-san. You're far too uniquely frustrating to have been created by another person. You had a family. You were just unfortunate enough to have lost them before you could form memories of them, she said. Naruto chuckled and turned his gaze to the Hyuga heiress. That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me, even if it was kind of an insult. Thank you, Hinata, he said with a tired smile. Hinata immediately began to feel defensive. I was not meaning to be comforting. I was simply stating the extremely low likelihood that you were made in a lab of some kind, she said quickly. The Bond laughed a bit at her reaction, earning a questioning glare from the Hyuga girl. You aren't great with people, are you? He asked. Hinata opened her mouth to retort, but sighed and shut it again. No, I am not. I spend what little free time I have reading rather than socializing. I especially avoid people like you, Uzumaki-san. People who have little to no regard for the standards put in place by the society they live in, she said. Naruto burst out laughing again, frustrating his teammate further. Man, you're no fun. Living by such a strict set of rules are boring. Loosen up a little. I think you'd be a whole lot happier if you did, he suggested. The Hyuga heiress prickled and glared up at the blonde. No, I will not loosen up. Why on earth would I want to forget my manners and sink to your level? I would never even consider it, she snapped. Naruto put his hands up and grinned. I guess I was right. You do need your beauty sleep. You get cranky when you don't get it, he joked. Well aware that he was walking a fine line, Hinata's hands shot forward, seizing the bottom of his jaw and pulling his face until it was only an inch from hers. You seem to garner quite a bit of pleasure from insulting my appearance, Uzumaki-san. You have absolutely no room to talk. You're a mongrel compared to me. In layman's terms, I'm out of your league. You should be honored that I'm even touching your face. In fact, you should savor the sensation, because it's the one and only time you'll ever feel it, she hissed, before shoving him backwards by his face. The excitable Guinean stumbled back several steps, laughing as he did so. He rubbed his jaw upon regaining his stance. Soft hands. You got a grip like a crocodile, though, he said. Hinata growled, but calmed herself once more and sighed heavily. Why are you being so aggressively mocking today? She asked. Naruto's jovial demeanor vanished instantly and was replaced with a hard glare. I feel like I don't have much of a choice. When I'm rude, you snap at me and insult my lifestyle. When I try to be polite, you get defensive and insult me some more. If everything I do is going to piss you off, I might as well try to have some fun while I'm at it, he said. The Hyuga girl frowned. What do you gain from speaking to me at all? It seems like things would be easier for both of us if we swore to silence, she asked. The blonde pointed to his forehead protector and shrugged. Whether you like it or not, we're teammates now. I would rather have something of a resembling a functional relationship with you than be at your throat. We're going to be fighting and maybe even dying together. Dying next to someone I hate isn't a goal of mine. If you'll let me, I'm willing to at least try to be nice to you, he said. Hinata pursed her lips and exhaled through her nose. I suppose that's reasonable. I still don't like you, Uzumaki-san, but I'll try to be more civil if you do the same, she said. Naruto nodded and pulled out a granola bar. Well, at least we can agree on some things, he said. He then produced a second granola bar and tossed it at the Hyuga heiress, forcing her to catch it reflexively. She glanced at it skeptically. What's this? She asked. Naruto tore open the wrapper of his bar and took a bite, chewing for several moments before swallowing and speaking. Symbolism, he said simply. Hinata studied the small morsel of food inside, unwrapping it and taking a bite. She scowled as she chewed it. Raisin, of course. It's the thought that counts, I suppose. Kakashi chuckled as he led his team into Hiruzen's office. Naruto's lower jaw was imprinted with what looked like the outline of a hand, and he clearly was not aware of it. He and Hinata had arrived nearly an hour early, meaning they had spent much of that time together. In all likelihood, the hand that imprinted on Naruto's face was hers. Either she tried to rip his face off, or she's really warming up to him. I'm guessing it's the first one, the Jonin thought to himself as he watched the pair walk alongside Shikamaru. The team entered the Hokage's office and closed the door, awaiting instruction from the elderly man. I can assume you're here for an assignment, in which case, I have another cleanup assignment for you. It should be fairly simple, Hiruzen, who was smoking his pipe as per usual, said. Naruto groaned. Can't we get something a little better than that? We've been cleaning out gutters and toilets all week, he complained. To his surprise, Hinata nodded in agreement. With all due respect, Hokage-sama, I feel that our unit has proven itself to be quite capable of completing mundane grunt work. I believe a true test of our functionality is in order, she chimed in. Hiruzen raised an eyebrow and looked to Kakashi. You aren't entirely wrong, Kakashi. Would you like to take them out to a C-rank mission? He asked. The silver-haired ninja thought for a moment. We still haven't asked Shikamaru his opinion yet, he said, casting a glance towards his lazy student. The shadow user shrugged and gestured to his teammates. I could really care less. They got me outvoted even if I didn't want to. Go right ahead, he said. The Jonin nodded and looked back to the Hokage. Give us a C-rank mission. I think they can handle it at this point, he said. Hiruzen nodded and chucked a scroll at Kakashi. He unfurled it and chuckled. A bridge builder, huh? Sounds simple enough. When do we meet this man? He asked curiously. The elderly Hokage pointed to the clock and grinned. This will be a part of your test of your ability to effectively pack, because you will be leaving in 1 hour. He will be waiting for you at the front gates of the village. His name is Tazuna, he said. The Guinean all turned white. How long will we be gone? Naruto asked. Hiruzen thought for a moment and holding up a finger. 1 week at the minimum. Pack for longer, just in case, he replied. The blonde nodded and bolted out of the office. Hinata sighed heavily. No manners, that boy, she grumbled to herself before bowing to the Hokage respectfully and taking a step back. I'll be leaving the pack, Hokage-sama. Good day. she said smoothly, turning to exit the office upon finishing her sentence. Shikamaru soon followed suit and left the room, leaving only Kakashi and Hiruzen. Are you beginning to understand my reasoning for putting this team together, Kakashi? The Hokage asked. The silver-haired ninja glanced out his window to the office and watched his students walk down the street of the village. Naruto and Shikamaru get along fine, but Hinata detests Naruto with a passion. They routinely get over it and over small things, and she said some cruel things to him. I don't like the way that their personalities mesh, he said honestly. The old man took a drag from his pipe and smiled. These scuffles are precisely why I assigned them to be in a cell together. Hinata is supremely talented, but she has something in a superiority complex, and she's a social infant in many regards. Naruto has a way of beating humility in people just by being unshakable. Naruto can also learn a thing or two about punctuality and etiquette from Hinata, he explained. Kakashi nodded and turned to leave. Did you know that Hinata followed Naruto home last night? The old man called out. The Jonin raised the eyebrow and turned back around. No, I didn't. This sounds like quite the story. Would you mind telling it? He asked. Hiruzen chuckled and pulled out his crystal ball from underneath his desk. First and foremost, I tend to keep an eye on Naruto if he's out and about at night, for obvious reasons. Last night, he was dragged from the training ground by Hinata all the way until he reached his apartment. He was aware of her presence nearly the entire time, but chose to wait until reaching his doorstep to acknowledge her presence, he began. The silver-haired ninja nodded and motioned for him to continue. Hinata had followed him in order to gain a clearer idea about his living situation. Naruto became angry when she told him this, perceiving it as an attack on his status as an orphan, primarily because Hinata had made a scathing remark regarding his position of the village pariah earlier that day. They conversed for several minutes about his lack of a home life, going their separate ways after several minutes, he said. Kakashi nodded once more. That was quite insensitive of her. She seems to only see things objectively, he said. The Hokage chuckled and relit his pipe. Quite so. They had a much less negative conversation outside the Hokage building this morning, but even then, Hinata took a joke much too seriously and marked up Naruto's face. The relationship isn't good as of yet, but I'm feeling optimistic as to its direction, he said. The Jonin snorted. Why is that? At this rate, she'll cripple Naruto before the mission even begins, he said. Hiruzen smiled in a reminiscing fashion. They remind me strongly of Minato and Kushina, he said. Kakashi laughed out loud at the statement. Oh, please, they're nothing like them. Naruto's a little like Sensei was in his youth, but Hinata and Kushina are nothing alike, he said. The Hokage shook his head. It's a stretch, I'll give you that. Hinata is much calmer than Kushina was on a moment-by-moment basis, but she has a comparable temper, and she has a similar tendency to resort to forms of violence when angered. Although Hinata's methods are much more picturesque, he said. The silver-haired ninja thought a moment before shrugging and turning to leave once more. I guess I can see it, but don't get your hopes up. I personally think that they're more likely to kill each other than start a family, he said. He then exited the office and closed the door behind him. Hiruzen smiled to himself and glanced down at his crystal ball. What he saw was a bit more than concerning. Naruto, who looked quite terrified, and Hiyashi Hyuga having a conversation in the middle of the street. And that is the end of the House of Glass, Chapter 4. I hope you enjoyed. Please leave a like, comment, tell me what I can improve on. I am working on getting an editing software, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to make the videos more smooth for you, for your listening. And again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.